Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers. Anyone else who's popped in because you're curious about what this is, or you have got a bit lost? Welcome, everyone. I'm Chatty. This is my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, and I'm going to be chatting away madly about what I've been reading in the first part of January. Now, I am actually filming this at the end of January, so my original plan to kind of do this more, I suppose, in the moment would cover it, has failed. I really wanted to be able to say, these are the books I've read, this is what I'm currently reading and my current thoughts on them, and then you would hear an update. I can't do that because I have finished extra books, but if I do everything, we'll be here for a very long time, and there's still a few books I'm just finishing the end of that I would like to kind of put in the January wrap up. So I am just doing the books I've read at the beginning, apart from one because I need to take it back to the library. So on this channel, I do not edit my long videos. It is one long continuous shot. So hopefully I will keep the waffle to a minimum. We will see how we go. So cheers, everyone. Clink. Yes, my little tiny teacups are upstairs, but I don't want to get them out and make a noise because I am trying to film this before my family wake up. So there we go. Right. So the book that I need to return to the library, I will tell you about first. So if you have yet to see my tea and taste video, I will put a link here so you can go and have a look at that. It is in two parts. It ended up being two parts because of life. So watch both of them. But if you don't really mind, I'm going to reveal the book that I chose for the tea and taste. It is Becky Chambers' A Psalm for the Wild Built. It's the first book in the Monk and Robot series, and it is an adult cozy sci-fi. I had such a lovely time with this book. It's very small. It is a novella, so it's just shy of 150 pages. I didn't race through it. I read it in sort of two sittings. This was the book that I was hoping to do for the Past and Future Readathon's Moody Monday in being a board prompt. It ended up for me being a Feely Friday because I didn't manage to kind of do it on Monday. So there we go. It's a Feelings Friday, and it definitely hit the mood that I was in. It's a very nurturing book, but also still really interesting in terms of the world building. I just love how detailedly Becky Chambers builds up her universes, her worlds, and the sort of the sci-fi land that we're in. So in A Psalm for the Wild Built, you have the wild and you have sort of the human area. So it's almost like the wild, humans don't go in, so they can't destroy the natural habitat. They've kind of come to those sort of agreements. And the human area feels very much sort of like utopian-esque. We meet our character Dex, who is a tea monk. Well, no, they're a monk, and they are feeling sort of like they're not quite satisfied in life. Like they have been, but they're now no longer feeling sort of quite satisfied. They feel there's something more for them. So they decide to change their vocation. They've been doing a lot of gardening and things within their, for want of a better word, monastery. And now they want to change their vocation to become a tea monk. And it's a really lovely kind of slow burn slice of life. We see Dex's experience being a tea monk, kind of what they do, the purpose of a tea monk, and kind of how it fits into this world. And then they encounter a robot from the wilderness, and we have a meeting of two worlds, and we have sort of not a full-on philosophical conversation, but just sort of like an interest in different things and kind of an exploration of different choices and of life and things like that. And Dex is still working through a lot of things, and it's just the story of well-being and just allowing yourself to stop for a moment, really. And just the way it's done, how it happens, it's just so beautifully done. Like, Becky Chambers is just a genius in terms of your investment in characters, the feeling of warm hug, like the emotion of things, and the kind of like day-to-day. I love day-to-day slow burn books, and this gave me what I needed. I could have felt that because one of my favorite things is like an entrepreneur story, like a growing business, and sort of seeing the challenges with that. So I could have felt slightly shortchanged, because we go from Dex working out to Dex having got it in his sort of new vocation. But I knew that wasn't the point of the story. Like, you could tell the vibe and kind of where it was going, so I didn't feel that. And I can't wait to read the second Monk and Robot. They are just amazing characters. I really love them. I love the relationship between them. I think it's fascinating. I cannot wait to see what happens next. I have put a reserve in for my library. I really hope to read it in February. So yeah, I just highly recommend. I definitely feel like I want to do a video of sort of like cozy books, like books to just lift you, books that you might need if you're having a shit day, if you just need something warm and comforting. So this book definitely fits that category and would be one of the ones I would talk about should I ever get around to making this video. I could easily reread this and just have this as a rainy day book. It's probably going to go on my books I would like to own at some point if I can get hold of it. Not in any rush at the moment, because my shelves would not thank me. But definitely, like, when I feel like I want to reread it, I will probably purchase my own copy. And I would imagine when I do that, I will be wanting to kind of like tab certain passages, just because they give me the warm feelings. They're also very kind of like, I think, important in terms of like us navigating life and emotional well-being. Right, I need to stop talking about this book and move on to another one, or we will be here all day. But yes, I cannot renew that one because someone else has reserved it, and obviously it's such a lovely book. They need it in their lives, so I want to make sure they can get hold of it, and I want to make sure I'm not fined. So the next book I'm going to talk about is the first book that I finished in January, and it is another fantastic book, and that is When Stars Are Scattered, by Victoria Jameson and Omar Mohammed. So this is a middle grade memoir graphic novel. The story is Omar Mohammed. The desire to have this book out there comes from Omar Mohammed, and Victoria Jameson is the graphic novel author and helped Omar kind of pull his story together into a book format, and Victoria Jameson did all of the illustrations for this, and this project is just wonderful. I love it. It is one of those books that I knew was very highly recommended by lots of people, and yes, it's all true. The hype is real for this book. Usually with certain things, I want to pull out certain images and certain passages, but I don't feel I can. I'm looking through it and I'm like, oh, that's good, but I don't want to ruin that bit for you. And it's very hard to kind of pick something out. So I'm just going to go with the just with like the first few pages. So I love this opening. So we have this one quote in the middle of a starry sky, and it says, "For me, the first years are lost." And then we open up to see Omar and his brother, is it Hammer? I forgot his name. Oh no! Come on, where is it? Hassan. No? No. No. Oh, come on. Yeah, no, it is Hassan. Yeah, Hassan. Hassan. So Omar and Hassan. And it is their story of the years they have spent in the refugee camp, how they ended up there in the first place, and what it's like, basically. There are some characters that are sort of autobiographical characters. there are some characters that represent lots of people that Omar met and have kind of been pulled together into a succinct story to represent certain themes and ideas and truths that happen within the camp. So I really enjoyed not only reading the graphic novel and getting all those feelings, but also then going on to learn about the process. I love that we have photographs of Omar and Hassan and their journey. So it finishes at the end of their time in the refugee camp, but then it does update you with how they have continued up until this point of Omar being able to collaborate and get this book published. It definitely inspired me to research a bit further into Omar's charity that he runs to support like schooling in refugee camps and resources and things. So I definitely am kind of looking more into that charity that he's set up, and I will leave the link in the description so you can go and look at it as well. It sounds amazing. This book is just so important. We're constantly hearing stories of refugees, of what it's like for people that have been displaced and their homes and way of life have been taken away from them. There's so much of it going on in the world right now, and it's really upsetting. And I think it's very easy for us to either just be consumed by this horror of everything, or to protect ourselves, try and just put it out of our minds. So I think it's really wonderful that you have stories like this that help you to kind of digest it in its sort of like one-on-one personal human stories, to make it feel accessible by taking a small piece of it, having a small piece of the difficulties, but also through that you see the strength of humans, you see the supportive communities, you see people who are improving things, and also from having a first-hand account you see what is helpful to refugees and people who are displaced and what is not helpful. So I think that is really important to read about. And also by having charities like Omar's, you can feel like you are making a difference and supporting things when you can just feel so helpless otherwise. So I highly recommend this book to absolutely everyone. It's an amazing story. It's told so well. There's some fantastic characters in here. The families that people make and the friendships they make and the things they make are amazing, but also just the difficulties of what they have to deal with is just mind-blowing. It's honestly, I can't really justify it. Like, everything I say isn't going to make a difference until you like actually read it, I think. And yeah, just the strength of people, the love and support that is in here. I loved all the stories of things afterwards. One of my favorite, one of the people that I absolutely loved was a real life person, and that is Omar and Hassan's foster mother, whose name eludes me, which is terrible. She's right at the beginning, so it should be quite easy for me to find her. Dilly dilly dee. I said. Oh, Fatima. Yeah. Yeah, Fatima, their foster mother, is such a wonderful character. She's basically just, her family, she's lost all of her family, and she was assigned, I don't know if it's like assigned or if it kind of comes about or volunteered or something, but she becomes foster mother to these two boys, and then the more you read the book and the more you read about that, you just see what absolute special, warm, inspirational person she is. There is also neurodivergent rep in here because of Hassan's character. I'm not sure what the official diagnosis or the official terminology is in here, but he is neurodivergent. He is non-verbal apart from one word. But what is wonderful is how he is kind of like a huge part of the camp, and there's moments where Omar feels very, very responsible for him, but other people are like, he is, you know, he doesn't just need you, he has got capabilities and he can do things, and you need to trust him and let him have his life as well. And I think that is just so important and inspiring, and it's just, there's so many things in this book that are wonderful. I can't praise it enough. So yes, When Stars Are Scattered was a utter delight to read, a really important read. The hype is real, and again, it's another one where yes, I would love to own my own copy, and I definitely want to look at this with my children. Okay, I'm now going to talk about some books that I don't have a physical copy of. So I read the audiobook The Future by Naomi Alderman. This was actually the book that was my book club's book. So I am part of a real life book club, and this was the one that was chosen. I'd never heard of it before, and I kind of was like, okay, I'll put that on my list, I'll see if I can get it out of the library. And then I didn't actually read the synopsis until I was working out what I was going to be reading in January, and the synopsis just sounded fascinating. But I think I read it weirdly, because what I was expecting wasn't quite what happened in the book. I don't think, I wonder if it's also like my version of a dystopia that I was kind of imprinting on this. It still happened how it was said in the book, just in a very different way. So for me, The Future deals with a lot of interesting ideas and concepts, and there's definitely a big environmental theme in this book. There's a sort of like an Armageddon theme. Armageddon? Apocalyptic, not Armageddon. Ignore me. Yeah, there's definitely kind of an apocalyptic kind of through line of this. And yeah, it's very fascinating to read, and I really enjoyed there's like a philosophy kind of in here, and just the concept of certain mentalities and things. It was really interesting and thought-provoking, but it wasn't my favourite book, and I didn't love it as much as I wanted to, because I think the way it was done, definitely the themes are the most important like part of this story, but it felt a little bit like, I don't know if it was just me, but I was sort of like slightly held back from the characters. It felt very much more kind of almost documentary and kind of factual and news reporter like style of writing, so you didn't quite get that emotional involvement for me, for the characters, or the characters are so focused on survival and had to put their emotions on hold to get through stuff. They didn't let you in to kind of their emotional world, and I am someone who, I need that character connection. I need emotions in my reading for me to love things. That's the biggest part of my joy of reading, and it always makes me push books higher up my favorites and recommend them and have them on like best books list, because if it's impacted me emotionally, that's the thing I like from my books. So for me, that's very important, and I didn't get that emotional connection. So lots of things were happening in this book. Please don't destroy recording. Oh, there we go. Sorry, that was a reminder that's just pinged up on my phone. So there were lots of things that were happening in this book that were sort of like quite dramatic, that would make you concerned, but I was just interested in the plot, but hadn't got that care about the characters as much. There was one moment where I did. I'll do a little spoiler thing in a moment. But other than that, it was fascinating, interesting, probably very cleverly put together, but just not a favourite because of the emotional connection for me. So going into spoilers, just so I can explain the bit that did move me, I really did enjoy a part where one of the characters, so you kind of have, so I had this in an audiobook, so I would be interested to see how it looked in kind of print format, because I was just listening to it. But there's, at certain parts within the book, you go into these like chat rooms. So there's like chat rooms, and things are kind of explored within these chat rooms about kind of more philosophy, like apocalyptic survivor information. And within the chat room, one character basically posts a suicide note, and the other people in the chat are suddenly highly concerned and are like, we need to find where they are, who they are, and we need to help them right now. So it's amazing to see all these kind of strangers band together to try and support and find someone. And I think I thought it showed a really positive part of the internet, and it wasn't until we were discussing in book group that also you realised you could flip it and it would also be a slightly scary part of the internet as well. So eventually, like, because you know who one of these characters is, like, you actually have met them, and then you realise another character has also been met as well. It leads, the stopping of the suicide leads to these two characters meeting, and there was a big emotional connection in that for me. Like, that was the one that felt very kind of like powerful and truthful, just seeing this friendship that had happened online, just suddenly them seeing who they were in real life and getting past what they thought of each other and moving forward with that, alongside knowing just how devastated and how hurt one of the characters were to the point of suicide. So I very much kind of enjoyed that aspect of it. So what was wonderful was seeing just how the good part of the internet, that you do make these connections, you do make these friendships, and you can have like genuine support groups and things out there, and everyone was so keen to try and help. It was just like suddenly there was a switch, and any kind of like disagreements or things that people had sort of like within the chat on people's viewpoints suddenly changed when human life was at stake and someone was crying out for help and they needed to step in. The scary part is that they were basically going through all the different conversations to try and pinpoint this location of this person. I mean, in this case, thank goodness they did, because otherwise this character would have died. But it is also scary to see how people can kind of piece stuff together. Like, you realise you reveal quite a lot of yourself online, so just talking about things you do in your daily life, it can clock, right, well, I know you only live 10 minutes away from this particular shop. I know that you are close to water because I see this in the background, or you've mentioned the sound of this. So just seeing how all these pieces can pull together to kind of like pinpoint where you are was the slightly scarier bit that I hadn't made the connection to. So I did enjoy that. I did enjoy this kind of coming together of these four sort of strangers who wanted to make a difference. I enjoyed how that happened. I would have liked to have read a little bit more about it and about their relationship and their journey to give me that emotional investment. But at the same time, I understand why it didn't quite happen, because of the twists and turns of the story. And I appreciated it. So it was one twist I picked up probably quite late. I think it's probably like I picked it up when you were meant to pick it up, and then you got the twist. The other twist I hadn't got, so that was fun and it was well done. But I just needed more human connection. I needed more human connection between. I think I needed more missing each other and more kind of devastation between Martha and Lizen, to kind of really root for them to be getting together, like I was, but like I was just like, oh, that'd be nice. It wasn't like they have to find each other, and I want that last emotion, please. But I don't know again if that's because that kind of emotional thing was sacrificed in terms of the story, like the story and the plot being the focus rather than the human connection. there were some characters that I thought were really fascinating that I'd like to have seen more of. So this story is mainly told from Martha and Elijah's perspective. We get a little bit of the 3 billionaire tycoons at the beginning, and then we have a snippet of I think he's either called Alfred or Albert. I'm going to go with Albert for now. So we have Albert, who nearly committed suicide. We have I can't remember her name at all. She's the wife of one of the billionaires. And then you have Badger, the child of one of the billionaires. And the four of them kind of like come together to see if they can make a difference, not agreeing with the choices that the billionaires are making and wanting to kind of make a difference in the world. I would have liked to have seen more of that. I would like to have seen more of the kind of like found family, growing friendship between those four, but we didn't get that. So that's why I can't rate it as highly. There was a part of me that was like, I haven't studied it enough. I don't know enough about it all. It was really fascinating in terms of like how social media and tech can change things and support things and stuff that happens. And there's probably a lot of truth to that. I am not in that field, even remotely. I could not comment. I could not speculate on anything to do with that. It is completely out of my brain. I couldn't do it. So absolute hats off to Naomi Alderman for all of that stuff that she'd been doing. There were just a few things, like sort of towards the end, it was just like, it just felt slightly implausible. It just felt slightly implausible that it happened the way it happened. Like I can see the messages behind it, I can see the ideas and the concepts behind it, and it's very commendable. But there's a part of me that's like, would it be that simple? I feel there'd be kickback from other people, even though you're in positions of power. But there we go. That was just my one little thing, and it was a really fascinating read. Okay, moving on from the future. I'm going to talk about the final physical book I have, and then one more little book. So I did finish the Castle of Tangled Magic. I had very briefly like started this in December and then kind of continued it on because I was not in the right mood, is not quite the right word. I felt like I wasn't fully immersed in it, and I needed to be that. It's a Sophie Anderson book. I love Sophie Anderson. I wanted to be able to fully appreciate the story and enjoy the story, and feeling like busy just wasn't the right time for me to be picking it up. So I was able to read it kind of in more of a focused way and give it like the best possible read in January, and that's what I did. So I'm going to find it really hard to talk about the Castle of Tangled Magic because I utterly adore The House with Chicken Legs and The Girl Who Speaks Bear. Like, both of them were wonderful, amazing books to me. So my expectations for The Castle of Tangled Magic were very high, and it just didn't work for me in the same way. So there's an edge of disappointment to this, but it's just because I had it hyped up so much in my head. So it's not a bad book, it's a really good book, and I can see how it should have worked for me, but it just didn't quite hit those things I needed it to hit to make it the same level of adoration that I have for the other Sophie Anderson's books. So this book has a tinge of disappointment around it, which is a shame because it is a really good book. It's a fantasy, it's very fantastical, it has a sort of folklore feel to it all, and it is encouraging things like bravery and self-belief, and like the idea of it being okay to make mistakes, all of things which are fantastic. But I think I just didn't quite get that investment and that need and that desire for that character to believe in themselves. Like, it just felt surface level and not fully realized for me, and I think it's because I didn't quite get that Olia was struggling at the beginning. So there's a wonderful setup of this joyous family life. There's wonderful characters in here. Olivia is a wonderful protagonist. She's she's very interesting. She's the castle and her family life is beautifully explained and sounds really wonderful. But I didn't see her struggle as much at the beginning of the book. Like, I think I needed to see her upset a bit more, or frustrated a bit more by her making mistakes, or not believing in herself, or having some sort of doubt about her abilities. I think I needed that to be able to get on board with her character arc in the story, because for me, like, there was a little bit of a mistake, but whoops, we'll just carry on. Like, it was very much a kind of well-adjusted, happy child in a delightful family life, which is fine. But the theme and the story arc was starting to focus on her having courage to keep going, whereas I had read her as someone who was quite courageous to begin with, so it didn't just quite marry up for me. So that was kind of what I struggled with. And I think the themes are brilliant, and I think definitely that it being okay to make mistakes. And there were some wonderful moments in here. There was one about a difficulty. She had to make a choice at one point, and she was like, but what if I choose wrong? I've already chosen wrong. And just the message from that was just so supportive. I should have tabbed it, but I didn't. Being along the lines of, well, if you make a mistake, we'll fix it together. Like, don't put this amount of pressure on yourself. All you can do is try your best. And that message is amazing. That message is wonderful. And I did love that. But I think it would have hit harder if we'd just seen the struggle before we had the magical adventure. And I think as well, I just needed a little bit more of, there were certain characters that we meet and certain things that we see. And I think for me to have had that same excitement that I have in The House with Chicken Legs and The Girl Who Speaks Bear, was if we'd have had a little bit of those folk tales. Like, if we'd have had Olia's mum or her gran telling those stories, telling those legends first. We have legends of the castle, we have legends of the different domes, but I think if we'd have had legends of the fantastical characters we then meet first, it would have had more of an emotional impact for me. So I think I'm used to having emotional impacts in Sophie Anderson, and I didn't quite have it in this one. And as I've just explained, that is something that is really important to me in books. So that being said, it was a really fun fantasy adventure. The whimsiness of the world is wonderful. I loved all of the Slavic folktale aspects to this. But again, I think I was really excited by the Domovoy, because I had read The Bear and the Nightingale, where it was more fully explained about what a domovoy is, the family sleeping on top of the oven in a cold winter. And so I had that knowledge coming into this book, which made me excited about the domovoy. Domovoy is a wonderful character. Love the domovoy. Love that story. But I think I had that love for it just because of my previous experience with Slavic folklore. I don't think, if I hadn't have read those ones, I don't think I'd have had that same excitement about a domovoy. So yeah, I just think there's certain, I just wanted more. And just the way the story plays out and certain things that happen, the themes are wonderful and the way it's done is wonderful, but it just wasn't quite hitting those emotions for me, and I need to work out why. Well, I think I have sort of worked out why, but I think this one is definitely one that, should I reread it and know what I would have lowered expectations going in, and I think I'd be able to relax more reading the story, because I was reading this going, oh, it's not quite where I wanted it to be, so that ruins the reading experience a bit for me. So I'm hoping that I at some point will be able to read this to my children and have more of a magical whimsy feeling with it. There was a moment in The Girl Who Speaks Bear where there was mentions of, there was a relation to The House and Chicken Legs, which really made me very excited and very happy. there is a similar relationship and connection to this book mentioned, but it didn't excite me as much as the other ones, and it should have done. So I don't know, it just didn't quite work the way the other ones worked for me, and that's really disappointing because I love Sophie Anderson. But however, this is just my opinion. I know other readers who have read this and just been like, Sophie Anderson's books are getting better and better. So it is a personal opinion. You know, it's a fantastic middle grade. It's full of whimsy, it's full of strength, bravery, it's full of fantastic folklore, it's full of adventure. It's a really, really good book. Just my personal journey with it and my personal disappointment just made it not quite hit those marks that I wanted it to, which is sad. But please don't be put off by my opinion, because so many other people really, really enjoy it. And the final book that I want to talk about was a tiny slither that I read on the internet. So it was a web comic that I read, and it is a little spin-off from Heartstopper. So when I was going through Storygraph trying to input certain things and get links and things for the Heartstopper yearbook, I came across a whole kind of list of all the Heartstopper things. And there was someone here, I was like, well, I don't recognise that one. What's that? And it was called Heartstopper Become Human. So this is where Alice Oseman has done a little bit of a writing and drawing experiment where she has taken her characters and put them in like a different scenario. So it's almost like fan fiction of her own book, and it's amazing. So in Become Human, so I think this is based on, I don't know it, but I think this is based on the video game, and it very much says, I will put the link to Become Human in the description box so you can all enjoy it as well. You don't have to have read Heartstopper, but I think you will get much more of an enjoyment from it if you had read Heartstopper. But you definitely don't need to be aware of this kind of like video, I think it's a video game world, and like a storyline on a video game that inspired Sophie Anderson to, not Sophie Anderson, Alice Oseman to try all this out. So in this world we have Charlie is a detective, and Nick is an android and is assigned to Charlie. They've got to be partners, and Charlie's suspicious of androids because of the past. And then you read this story, and slowly you have a softening from Charlie about androids, and this particular android, Nick in particular, and the idea of like sorry. Hi. My tower of piled things to get the phone in the right place like was just bothering me, but I shouldn't have moved it because it had been working for such a long time. I should have just left it where it was, but there we go, I moved it and everything happened. Chaos. So obviously knowing the character of Nick, it's just adorable. He's just this earnest spaniel of a boy, and you get this earnest spaniel of an adult AI and it's just so adorable watching this. And there's just the way it all works, and there's like other like Heartstopper like little kind of like Easter egg moments where you're like, this is so clever, it works so well. All of it is done in colour, so it's in 2 parts. It's just a very short sweet story, but I love it. I love more of this, just seeing Nick and Charlie in different scenarios, and it's just so well done. Like the emotional investment in this was huge, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. So if you're a Heartstopper fan, definitely check out Become Human. The links are in the description. You'll have a wonderful time. So those are all of the 5 stories that I wanted to talk to you about. At some point I'll be wrapping up the rest of January. I've no idea when. My video uploading schedule at the moment is pants because I'm not putting pressure on myself. Life is, to quote the booktuber Ezra, life is lifing. And we just carry on with it, and it's important to look after yourself and have good mental health and have no pressure, because it doesn't matter. Videos are going to come out when they're going to come out. People are going to watch them or not watch them, but I feel a huge sense of satisfaction from them having them uploaded. I do hope that you are reading some wonderful books, whether you are well, it'll be February when you watch this, but I hope you had wonderful reads in January as well. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a like, because that always feels really nice. If you have any thoughts on anything I've said or on any of the books that are in here, please get chatty in the comments. I love a chat. Again, I'm being rubbish with my comments, but I will be getting around to them. I'm very sorry, and I do appreciate it. It gives me such a warm buzz when I see a comment, and I often have time to read it and smile. But then the actual getting around to replying to the comment sometimes goes out the window because, you know, there's life chaos going on. But I appreciate them, and I will reply, I promise. So yes, there we go. Those are the books. Hope you enjoyed this. Happy reading, everyone.